Okay, time to tackle why young guys don't read books anymore. Right. And it's a big concern to this young woman, the no-nonsense free editor. Why? Because she has a son. Right. So she likes to read, her son probably doesn't. There's no books for him. Right. Now we're going to get into this. Right. Here, Death of Men's Fiction. Let's get into this.
Wouldn't surprise you to know that men don't read anymore. It sure surprised me. It actually surprised literally everybody. Men
It surprised you because you being a woman, no nonsense, you aren't geared, you don't care about us, right? You have no idea what motivates us because you're not interested. Okay?
women, and of course, BookTube and BookTok had a field day with it, with some marvelous videos talking about actually, yes, men do read. You, traditional publishers, just don't frequently make books for them at all. Or
Yeah. Do you know why? You're going to mention why. Because the editors are female and women are hostile to men. No nonsense. Here's the women's in-group bias. Women exhibit stronger in-group bias compared to men, meaning they show more favoritism towards other women than men do towards other men. It's that simple. Women like each other women, and at best, you're indifferent to men. That's you're indifferent because that's why you don't understand. You were surprised that men aren't reading anymore. Right. So these female editors, they gatekeep the book business to other women. They keep men out. That's why.
at least not books that are clearly marked or coded for men. If you go to Amazon or any bookstore, there is a section called Women's Fiction. There are also a lot of other sections which are not specifically targeted at women, but the book covers and the titles and the blurbs make it very clear that it's not women's fiction, but it is. Despite this universal shunning that marketers have done towards male readers, men still read, and they read.
Thank you for admitting that. So it's hostility to men. That's the motivation. That is the reason, the main reason. I shouldn't say the reason, because the other reason is video games, which are so much more interactive and enjoyable than reading. I'm sorry, it's just the case. For young guys, it is the case.
Read prolifically. It's just that they're kind of ghettoized. If you're a man and you want to read, there's a few options open to you. Nonfiction, of course. Hey, bro, are you reading your nonfiction to get on that grind? If not, WYD. I hate the internet. If you want to read fiction, military sci-fi is a reliable place to go. Definitely very male energy. I'm here for it. High fantasy, sword and sorcery. Do you like dragons? Do you like knights? Do you
Let me show you, no nonsense, how incredible video games are for story. Here is Call of Cthulhu gameplay through. A story is happening in here, and you're a part of it because you're interactive. Now look at this. This is you.
I see grounds for life. Well, there is no. And the weather is rough, and the winds do blow. And there people come forward.
Hey, be careful.
You see, this is all very male, right? The guy shows disrespect, and the hero puts him in his place. This is you. This is a story. Where are you? No nonsense. This is a story unfolding, only it's interactive for guys. So how is reading going to compete with that? This is the other reason. Girls like reading because they don't need to be involved in action. You're completely uh, what is that? Passive next to men. Because you don't need to succeed in life.
Like Game of Thrones. We got you covered, bro. Pulp novels are very niche now, but they still exist, and they are still primarily for men. And of course, there's always homicide, murder mystery, solve a puzzle, catch a murderer kind of books.
Yeah, solve a puzzle. That's right. Men are interactive. That's true.
Very popular with both sexes. Fine, fair enough. But what if you don't like any of that stuff? What if you like contemporary fiction? You're a man, you want to read a book about the here and now, about an every man's struggle. No, it's not about the apocalypse. No, it's not about a dragon. And whatever it's about, you absolutely don't want to sit through 27 and a half pages of world building. You don't like that. And yeah, we can make fun of you for your attention span, or hear me out, we can acknowledge that men have varying tastes in what kind of
Why would you say that? I mean, you're showing hostility now. A man's preferences is not necessarily due to a lack of attention span. I mean, your the books that you women read don't necessarily have story building in. Is that due to a lack of attention span to you gals?
literature they like, just like women do. Because some women hate exposition too. Hello. If you are a man and you want contemporary literature, particularly if it's about love, romance, or dating, I got bad news for you, fellas. You're shit out of luck. Or at least you were until recently. Normally when you come to my channel, the first thing that I tell you about writing a book is that you want to fit very nicely into a niche, an existing niche. You want to market to an existing market. You want to say, hello, see all these other books that are just like mine that you enjoyed? You should also read mine. I'm very into that. So what happens when the market that you're targeting has kind of been left out in the cold?
Well, it just goes to show you this isn't about money then, does it? Like there's a market for men. You could sell your books, or you could shun them because you dislike them. Which route have you girls chosen? See, money is a man's problem. No nonsense. Men who don't worry about wealth become homeless. You girls shack up with a man or get welfare, no problem. That's why when you enter these businesses, when you get up top, your hostility, your unnecessarily and unwarranted hostility towards us guys shows. You don't have to worry about money. And you love hating on men.
The people that you want to write for, nothing really exists for them. You're not exactly the first of your kind. That would be
You have to come to terms with the female psyche. You've got to be honest with yourself first that women do not like men and are hostile to us. You have to come to terms with that. You have to admit that to yourself first. And that's why, by the way, I don't trust women like you. Or that is to say, I don't trust women. Because what it is, you've got a son and you happen to like him. And so you don't want him to be treated too badly. But you are going to, in the end, never cross the finish line. You're never going to be 100% for him.
pretentious, but you might be the only one that's published in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know. Today we're going to be looking at The Dog Walker by R.A. Stone, which is unique in that it is men's.
No, I'm not interested in that because I'm getting to the crux of the matter here.
An H in it. I disapprove. I disapprove of the spelling of your name, sir. He's more in the transgressional fiction genre.
So this is interesting to guys. Transgression fiction, a genre of literature which focuses on characters who feel confined by the norms and expectations of society and break free of those confines in unusual or illicit ways. Why would that appeal to men? Why would they appeal to men? Because men are the ones who are confined to gender roles. You women are not confined to your gender roles. Any gender role you have, you embrace. Men are the ones who want to break free. Everything that the feminist movement claimed it was is what men need.
Genre, so if you really liked the movie Seven, you probably like Polinick. And it's fine. It's fine if you like that. But
I don't like Seven. I never did. Right. I don't see how it was transgressive. At the end, the guy shot the guy because he murdered his wife. It's just more female worship. How's that transgressive?
it's not contemporary fiction. The fact that it takes place in the now times is not enough to make it contemporary fiction. And it's certainly not going to give you a slice of life of what life is like for a man from a men's perspective. Very few contemporary novels deal with the modern male experience at all. Or if they do, it's from the female perspective. Do these female authors or the POV female characters get that right? I'll leave that for you to tell me. Probably.
No, how can you? It's not that you simply don't understand us. You have no desire to understand us.
Not. Because contemporary fiction focuses on a slice of life, there's a lot of the male experience that we're missing out on. We're missing out on male sexuality, which of course we know society as a whole hates and spits on.
Thank you. Exactly. People do not like male sexuality. I'm glad you admitted that.
We're missing out on male friendships, which again, if you believe the press, y'all just don't have friends. You have no.
Well, you know, guys do give up their friendships to chase women once they hit puberty. We lose our humanity at puberty. That's true. Right? And society prefers it that way. So it's not just that society thinks it, they want it.
Friendships and you don't want them. All you want is sex, you disgusting porn addicted creeps. And you really have no inner life at all. You know, men are.
And you're going to prove later on in this video that you're all about sex.
Simple. They just want food and sex. How did we get to a point where stand-up comedians' bits were like considered facts? I hate it here. R.A. Stone just decided, screw that. I am not.
Yeah. Comedians, they push the boundaries. And that's why the closest thing to a voice for men. Right? They shine a light on men's issues.
Satisfied with what is available, and I, a man, have decided to write a book, a contemporary book, for men. Let's see how we did. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the cover before we even get into it. And this is my one, I'm not going to call it a beef, but this is a risk. Cartoon book covers are
Okay, it's a beef then. Just say it.
actually very in vogue right now. You've probably seen a lot of them. But very female coded. And even books that are not necessarily for women, the covers are just, we can just say that they're very gently animated. I don't know.
Yeah, it's female controlled. The book industry is female controlled and owned. And they're hostile to men. That's right.
Know what you call this cartoon style, but it's very in your face and it's very male coded. The second you see this cover, and he has two different versions of the cover. So the one that I showed you is the one for the ebook and the paperback.
Just a minute, I gotta skip to the more pertinent parts. Oh, by the way, and this is why I would never be interested in these kind of stories right here, right? Let me hear.
It's Rex. He's a guy in the Canadian Navy, And we follow him along with his dating adventures. We start when he's just like, we have some flashbacks of when he was a young man. He was just finishing high school. And we see where he grew up. We see the kind of family environment.
Dating adventures, yes. That would totally disinterest me now, knowing what I know. Because men's experiences in dating are shit. No nonsense. They're shit. They are an exercise in abuse and disrespect for men. So I'd be totally disinterested in reading that. Some guys would, though. Younger guys are into it because they they don't read it, but it would leave a bad taste. Any guy who would read and, an accurate depiction of male dating experiences would come away from the reading experience depressed. Because it's endless jumping through hoops to gain abuse and disrespect. Right? That's why, hey, do you notice why so many guys, where is it, are into games like Call of Cthulhu? Why do you think H.P. Lovecraft is so popular amongst men? Because H.P. Lovecraft just threw all that nonsense out. That's why. Now, Death of Men's Fiction, I want to get to your latest video. Here we are. Yeah, look at it. Boys and books and reading. Okay, let's get this.
The conversation about men's literature and the lack of men's books and men in the publishing industry has led to some interesting questions and some interesting comments. And a big one that's come up is, how is it these adult men don't read? When we're talking about men my age and older, that is 40s and up, elder millennials, Gen X, and boomers, the answer to that is typically that they use.
Now, you're doing this multiple times for your channel, right? So you're making probably cash off of pretending you're on men's side. Right.
Used to read when they were young, but now because there's a lack of material for them to read, they either read old books or they don't read at all. But when the conversation shifts to younger men, younger millennials, or Zoomers, who are apparently adults now, I thought they were all still teenagers. Oh my God, I'm so old. The answer was they never read at all. Because as much as there's a lack of books for men, the situation for boys, especially for teenage boys, is even worse. This is something that initially escaped me because, as much as one of my viewers apparently wishes I was his mom, this is a sweet thing to say, right? Not a come on.
Thank you for admitting what I mentioned earlier. So this guy says, I wish you were mom. It's very sweet. And immediately that came to your mind is sex. So you are projecting your feelings onto this young boy. Given how many female teachers are banging teenage boys, it doesn't surprise me.
I'm actually not a mother of boys or girls, and my solitary nephew in his house full of sisters, he doesn't read either. Like a lot of teenage boys, he just plays his video games and no idea.
Exactly. You know why? Because video games have stories in them already. They have stories in them already. And they're interactive. Where is it? Can we find a person in here? Yeah, they're interactive. Books will never be able to compete with that. This is a very interesting story unfolding, and you were a part of it as a guy.
I don't know which ones. The problem with being even a woman commenting on the state of men's books and men's literature is that I am a woman, something many of you were kind enough to point out in the comments.
Yeah, well, that's very snarky way, right? You think I believe that you're on our side? I mean, even the talk, you have no understanding what's in our brains. Because you never gave a shit. It's women who are all about sex. You're the ones who don't care about what men for our minds.
As much as I mock you, and I do, and I will continue doing so, you're not entirely wrong.
So you're going to mock guys who point out that you lack the male experience. Okay, thank you for admitting you're hostile, which just proves that they're right.
To point out that even as an editor with 15 years experience, my personal experience might differ a little bit than a man's. So with that in mind,
It differs completely. Your life has been on easy mode. You're married, aren't you? Right. So what's your lifestyle like? Did you have to work at the oil rigs growing up before you get married? No. You have no idea what men go through. Also, as you said, there's some young guy said, I wish you were my mom, right? You gave your whole life is positive feedback, which is the complete opposite of what we go through. So yes, you have no idea of male experience.
as it happens, I happen to know men, one of which, author Jeff Putnam, has decided to take up the banner and write a men's adventure series that is specifically targeted at teenage boys and young men. We're talking ages 15 to 25 and up, of course. Jeff also has the distinction of being the father of 8 sons. Yeah, 8 sons and 1 daughter. Oh, you
Oh, I feel sorry for those boys then. Because he's a trad con. If he's got that many children, he has a stay-at-home leech, a woman leeching off him. So he's a typical male servant. He has to provide. That's what a provider is. He's a servant, no nonsense. And just like you, he will be non-transgressive. He'll be make sure his boys know their servant roles and what society expects of them. So I feel sorry for them. There's no bigger feminist than a trad con male.
You thought you were conservative? Try again, pal. Jeff wins. Jeff wins it all. With that in mind, for today,
No, I'm not conservative. I want to break my chains. I want to be free of them. That means I don't want any of these stupid gender roles that this guy is no doubt going to be putting on his sons.
today's video, in addition to hearing my dulcet tones, you'll also be hearing from Jeff about his new Cole Harper adventure series, what it's like as a male reader, and how you put on the
I'm going to bypass this guy. Don't worry, guys. I watched some of this, and I'm not really interested in what he has to say. Right. More female hostility right here.
apparently, from my comments and from my
Back it up a bit.
I'm pretty sure they're not popular among grown folks. I doubt very seriously they're popular among young boys. What is popular among young boys, apparently, from my comments and from my meager observations of the younger males in society, is manga and lit RPG. 2 genres that I honestly don't understand. It's not that I don't like them, it's that
You don't like them. That's why you don't understand them. What's there to understand? They're just stories in a different mode. Manga is just how's that not a book? How's manga different from a book? Well, the difference is it's still male friendly. It still panders to guys. But other than that, it's just a comic book, right? Well, it's not even really a comic book. It's what they call it, a light novel, right? So for you to claim you don't understand a novel in picture form means you don't like it.
I don't get them. Like, why?
What do you mean you don't get them? They're stories that they read. What the hell?
Luckily, Jeff had an answer for that too.
I don't see manga or light novels or lit RPG as competition. I see them as definitive proof that the publishing industry has ignored what teenage boys and young men actually want.
They haven't ignored it, they've rejected it. They've rejected it. Because they are women. Women are now in control of the publishing industry. Most publishers are female. and they gatekeep the men out. They have hostility towards male writers.
For way too long. Manga and light novels, graphic novels, with the Frank Miller ones, those are great. They're all fast, they're visual, and again, they've got high stakes that matter. They don't waste any time. They immediately throw readers into action, and the pace just never, ever lets up. It keeps going. It gives them these characters who are doing things.
Exactly. Now look at the comic book industry. One of the guys showed me this. This is what happens when women get hold of comic books. What I say over and over again, I say they turn it into a soap opera.
The bed and was making love with her a few minutes earlier. Zora gladly accepts the honor, and Doom would later meet with Reed and invite him to be his best man at his wedding. Reed discusses with the team, telling them they were also
This is about a wedding. This is a superhero comic book about a wedding, everyone.
invited. They all insist on not going, but eventually accept after hearing that it's a Latverian tradition to forgive everyone who attends the wedding. They fly.
Oh, so they're going to get rid of the villains, right? They're all going to make up, right?
To the wedding, hoping the Fantastic Four can finally be allies with Doom. However, Johnny decides to sneak over to Zora to talk to her, but she confronts him and tells him to not ruin this for her. Meanwhile, Reed and Sue
Don't ruin this for my wedding. This is quite the superhero magazine.
enjoy being treated like royalty in the castle. The biggest wedding in history.
They enjoy being treated like royalty in the castle. That's what young guys always say, That's what I'd write about.
Finally begins as world leaders attend, only coming.
Look at all the pomp and circumstance, right? This is completely female enjoyment.
So they can make peace with Doom. On the altar, Johnny tells Reed there's something he should know, but Doom tells both of them to shut up since Ben Grimm is walking the bride down the aisle. The priest begins the ritual, and Doom says his vows, proclaiming Zora as his Queen Eternal. Suddenly, Zora interrupts the ceremony and tells Doom it's her duty to tell him her secrets. She then reveals to Victor that she...
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so this is a soap opera lady, right? And this is what happens when women get their hands on male material. It's openly hostile.
Very brief moment in time there, thank you, Chuck Palahniuk. There was a whole subgenre called transgressive fiction, which absorbed those traditionally male tastes, which were being shoved to the side by the ever-increasing female sensibilities of the publishing industry. The problem...
Thank you. Thank you for admitting that. Women are hostile to men. This is what you have to admit to yourself first.
The problem is that transgressive fiction was marketed, as it should have been, specifically to adults. What were young boys supposed to read? What were they supposed to
What are
read?
you talking about? Kids can really absorb adult material. Grimm's fairy tales were originally for adults, and they were brutal, and kids loved hearing those stories.
Read that not only was a good time, that they enjoyed, but also helped with their developing morality. What do they even like? The publishing industry didn't seem to care. Now, the good news is...
Well, if you're against that, what you're doing is you're saying, here's something cool for boys. I'm immediately going to mommify it so that they don't like it.
From my perspective, and it is a very limited perspective, thanks to independent publishing, I think we are seeing something of a revival in men's fiction. A lot of male aspiring authors, having seen what's out there for traditional publishing,
It's not going to change. It's not going to change unless you kick the women out. You'd have to have a separate male space. You'd have to have a separate group of male publishers to look after the men. And have the women only looking after the women because they're biased towards them anyway. So let them look after that.
they've just decided to go their own way. They know what they like to read. They know what their friends like to read. They remember what it was like seeing books directed at them on the shelves. And they would like to bring that back, please. And they're doing it. It's a slow start, but I think...
Again, they aren't doing it. Men being interested in writing for for boys. Doesn't matter if the editors and publishers keep them out. If they look at these men's books and say, we're not interested, I don't think that'd be interesting. I think we'll go a different direction. How is that going to change anything? This is what I'm talking about. You will never cross the finish line because you cannot admit female hostility towards men. And in order to actually change it, you would have to keep women out of men's publishing.
That we'll get there. I actually think that the future for men's fiction is very bright, simply because TradPub is losing their hold on the general audience. They're getting wise to their crap. But in that process, it's very important not to leave behind those boys who will one day grow to be men who will read. The overwhelming majority of middle grade and young adult fiction is then and now written by women. Now, in the case of...
There you go. There you go. They're written by women. And their tastes are totally different. You know why this story here was all about, where is it? A wedding. Because women, no nonsense, they get the guy. Men's heroics, the very source of it is to get the girl. What do I say about dating? It's all about jumping through hoops and hoping to get that girl. That's why it's filled with action and problem solving. Women they automatically get the guy, and you're not that interested. Right? That's why that story was all about a wedding. What's a wedding? It's a showcase for the woman, for the bride. Right? Because the woman's fantasy isn't about getting together with a man. It's about being in the spotlight.
Of S.E. Hinton, thank you for writing The Outsiders. That was fine, but should that be the case? Obviously, as a woman, I don't have a problem if women decide to write books that are directed at young boys, but...
Well, there you go. Well, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that for the reasons I've shown.
Male authors, as they start getting into this space, I'd like to see them target a few books towards a younger audience, or at least an audience that is appealing to both young and older males, like Jeff did with his Cole Harper series.
Since young guys have manga and video games, I don't give a shit if they ever read. All it is I know the motivation, everyone, the psychology behind this. You want your son to be a clone of you. You read, therefore you want him to read these novels. It's not going to work.
15 and up is a perfectly respectable level to aim with your books. All that means is shaving off the more extreme elements that you might find in an adventure or a thriller book. It doesn't have to mean catering to female sensibilities, and it shouldn't. And getting boys to read in the first place might feel like an uphill climb, but if you start early, and if you start with the right influences, that's not an insurmountable task either.
See, with my kid,
But why would you bother? Why would you bother when you have this kind of action going on? When boys have something that's interactive as well as a story going on, which they're a part of. I mean, you can't compete with that. Like I said, I don't care about what this TradCon has to say. Past him. Get past him. There. Conclusion.
Nazis and Finding Treasure for yourself or for the young lad in your life. The link is below. I'd also love to hear in the comments section about fiction, both old and new. That would be great for teenage boys, because I have a certain surly 13-year-old who needs to do something with his time other than video games. Is it Roblox? Is that what they're doing? No, it's Minecraft. It's Minecraft.
Here's something too, guys, from my personal experience. There's no bigger woman worshiper than a Minecrafter. I've seen it in my comics. So you're saying something like interactive, like video games, and world building like Minecraft. That's a waste of his time. But reading a novel about some kind of, where is it? Soap opera, that would be a waste of his time. because you like it. So if you like it, it's not a waste of time. If he likes it, it's a waste of, and you don't, it's a waste of time. Thank you again for showing the hostility women have towards men. So what makes you think you're on your son's side? We'll end it here.